Hey, it's me, Dr. GB, and after hearing some questions from students, I'm going to go over how to do the calculations for LSA 3 using a hypothetical numerical scenario. And so in this case, we're going to have 250 grams of fiber, and we want to make a 20% weight of fiber dye bath solution. And as a reminder, for our weight of fiber math, there's a few different ways that we can write out this equation. The one y'all got in your lab handout is that the percent weight of fiber, and we would consider the unit for that value to be a percentage, is equal to the grams of fiber, the grams of dye over the grams of fiber, dye over the grams of fiber times 100%. All right, so this calculation is set up so our units will cancel out if we multiply everything together, because our weight of fiber and our percentage both have units of percent, and our grams of fiber and our grams of dye both have units of grams. So this question is saying, given the mass of your fiber listed in the spreadsheet, so 250 grams, how many grams of a dye would you need to make a dye bath with the weight of fiber in your spreadsheet, which is in this case 20%. So for me to do this, in question number 1, what's going on here is I am asking you to solve for the mass of dye in grams. So we want to rearrange that equation so we end up with our grams of dye. So if I write out my equation here, percent weight of fiber and units of percentage is equal to grams of dye over grams of fiber times 100%. If I want to rearrange both sides to get rid of or to isolate for grams of dye, I can start by dividing both sides by 100%. So that's going to give me percent weight of fiber, and percent is equal to 100%. All right, and the percentage units are going to cancel on both sides. That gives me grams of dye over grams of fiber. All right, and so now my next step is if I want to isolate for grams of dye, I'm going to multiply both sides by grams of fiber. So that's going to give me percent weight of fiber over 100 times grams of fiber. And that's equal to grams of dye. So now we have our version of the equation where we've isolated for what we want to solve for, which is our grams of dye. So we can start plugging in the values that we know. So we know that we want 20% weight of fiber. So I am going to plug in, 20% weight of fiber here divided by 100%, which is given as part of the equation. And again, our percentages are going to cancel out. And then we multiply by the mass of our fiber, which is 250 grams. All right, and that's going to give us our value for dye. Now, our percentages cancel out because we have percent weight of fiber and percent on the top, 100% on the bottom, but our grams don't cancel. So that means our answer for our dye is going to have units of grams, which is good because we want the mass of our dye to be in grams. And to do that value, we would simply do the math on the left-hand side. So we are going to take 20 divided by 100 and then multiply it by 250. All right, and that's going to give us 50 grams of dye. Now, if you wanted to check your answer to make sure you got it right, all right, we know that we want a 20% weight of fiber solution. So I could solve by plugging in my grams of dye over my grams of fiber, multiply by 100%, and see if I get 20. So if I have 50 grams of dye divided by 250 grams of fiber, I multiply by 100%, 50 divided by 250, that gives me 0.2 times 100. That gives me 20%. So yes, this is my correct answer. I did my math correctly, so we would want to weigh out 50 grams of dye.